Welcome to the podcast, Broadcast from the Past, where we imagine what broadcast news would be like before radio or TV. Joining me today is a special guest, a paleontologist from Mahasarakham University in Thailand.
Hello, I am Sulovet Suthitorn, Ajahn Pong. I'm very happy to be here.
And welcome. Let's orient you now on the structure of this podcast. Each episode begins with a brief introduction where we explain the concept of the podcast and identify the time period we are broadcasting from. Then we go right into the podcast in character with guest voice actors. After that, we check in with reality, with Keeping It Real, where we explain what facts were real, what facts were played with, and what was totally made up for the broadcast. We will end each episode chatting about the research process, what we already knew, what we discovered while researching, and what we didn't get to include. We will give reading recommendations and talk about where we got our information, then finish off with a round of acknowledgements to all the contributors. Each episode is written by a passionate history buff who gets to choose which awesome moments of history we want to focus on. I got to write today's episode.
Today's episode is set in Kolat, in what is now Thailand in 1717. At the time, the kingdom of Ayutthaya was in power. The city of Kolat was a frontier fortress town at the time, about a two-day walk from the mountain district of Phu Vieng. The court of Ayutthaya was the royal center of a powerful cosmopolitan Siam kingdom, famous for wealth, diplomacy, and international trade.
The broadcast type is in the form of a newscast with headlines of the day, plus an expert panel. About what, you may ask? Breaking news from Kingdom of Ayutthaya in 1717. A joint Siam-Vietnamese expedition, while looking for ancient pottery, has discovered proof of dragons.
An ambient given an insight to the history of paleontology in Thailand. And to help Tony unpack the reality for her fictionalized story.
And now, on to the play.
This is Ayutthaya Now. I'm Moon Witjit, Royal Documentarian, bringing you the day's top stories for Saturday, January 2nd, 1717. Our top stories include health. Another outbreak of Rokha, or cholera, has impacted the Korat Plateau. Medical experts have identified miasma, or bad air, as the main cause, and are delivering relief to the patients with the best herbal medicine. Politics. King Tomoreshiya III of Cambodia, who remains at the court at Ayutthaya as our guest, has outlined plans for a joint expedition to reclaim his throne. Discussions continue on strategy and timing. Science. Breaking news from Korat, where a joint Siam-Vietnamese antiquarian archaeology expedition looking for ancient pottery has discovered proof of dragons. We end today's show with an in-depth discussion with our local Korat experts and a representative of the royal court to explore the implications of what this means for the kingdom, our neighbors, and the world. I'd like to welcome our guests, Prakru Buasang, the abbot of Wat Prajeri Yai, Yamali, a folklorist from Korat with a specialization in Naga lore and knowledge. The court administrator, Kunme, who is the financier of the expedition. Welcome, Prakuntao. We are honored to have you with us today.
I am honored to be here.
And welcome, Yamali and Kunme.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, dear listeners, a little bit about myself. I am the court documentarian and have a passion for antiquities and history. It is in that capacity that I bring you today's expert panel to explore what is found, what it could mean, and what are the next steps. So first, over to Kun Meh, who can give us some background.
Yes, Moon. So as you know, the Korat Plateau is at the gateway to Isan, and in this area, there is much evidence of ancient habitation, great treasures, and so forth. We often find old and older pottery, which shows our people long and civilized past, and many jewels and gemstones too. We see places like Ban Chiang, well known to the locals of that area, who often marry trip over tree roots and fall onto ancient store of pottery.
Tell us a little bit about why this is becoming so popular among the kingdoms right now.
I think the official lie is that in general, it is a moment of stability, and in such times, is it important to look at possible shared commonalities across cultures and looking at international cooperation. And of course, Annam or Vietnam, as some people call it, has a lot of West interest in also showing their cultural superiority right now due to their issues with the South.
So it is within this cultural and political context that Ayutthaya has set up this joint expedition.
Yes, and we hope to find a lot of treasure.
Understood. Let's move now to the moment of discovery. Pakun Tao, I believe you were the first person on site.
Yes, of course. I had heard of the expedition nearby, but the story really starts many years before this. Around 6 years ago, when my path led my feet to this forest area, I knew I was to set up this temple here. During my time and deep meditations, I also fostered many young monks on their religious studies and practices. I also ensured that the nuns have safe spaces to contemplate. One day, a nun who was in charge of the kitchen came to me and asked me to help as she had found what she thought were naga bones and wanted to understand if it signified a fortunate event or a cursed event. We gathered the bones together and there was much excitement. It was an augured event. I saw it as my job from then on to protect the bones and preserve them for the right moment.
And that moment came.
Yes, finally, after 6 years, that moment came. When word came to me that such an expedition came to a site not 1 week away by ox cart. As I traveled there with my precious cargo, I had time to reflect on what this might mean for us and if they could truly be naga bones.
Thank you, Prakun Tao.
And this is when the Joy Siam Vietnam expedition, who had been looking for pottery, were able to help the abbot identify what he was looking at. It was a great example of international cooperation. Of course, it was clearly ancient Naga bones.
Thank you, Kun Meh. And now let us turn to our esteemed Yamabi, a renowned folklorist from Korat with a specialization in Naga lore and knowledge. Yamali, can you tell our listeners, especially those from abroad, a little about Naga and why this might indeed be connected to the abbot's discovery?
Let me start from the beginning. Naka are powerful, divine or partly divine, serpent-like beings that live under the earth, primarily the watery depths. They are gifted with the power of transformation and are the humble servants of and protectors of the Buddha. There are two kinds of Naka. One kind is called the Naka born on dry ground, and the other kind is called the Naka born in the water. The Naka born on dry ground can transform themselves only on the dry ground, and they cannot transform themselves in the water. The Naka born in the water can transform themselves only in the water, and cannot transform themselves on the ground. In the place where the Naka are born, die, sleep, associate with one another, and shed their skin. In these places, they cannot transform themselves to become other kinds of beings. Sometimes they become the snakes called sai or grasa. Sometimes they take the form of a cobra or green pit viper or other kinds of snake. And sometimes they take the form of other kinds of animals. And if they die in these forms, they can leave the bones of these transformed creatures behind for us to see.
These are definitely Naga bones then.
To definitely know something is still as yet out of our reach, and yet the knowledge of the people of this region contains much regarding the Naka, but also of other serpents and creatures from the before time. We also know from other peoples that they have also seen the remains of such creatures. In those kingdoms, they sometimes call them Tatsu or dragons.
Do you mean this is a universal phenomenon?
To some extent, in Japan, Tatsu are mostly positive serpentine deities, deeply connected with the rivers and seas. In Portugal, they have dragão or dragons, which were malevolent and hoarding treasures. I think this shows a common experience where we try to understand the world we see around us.
How old are these bones really?
To understand the age, we might have to turn to what we know of the creation of the earth. After the great fire consumed the Kappa, and the new earth was established, everything was not established the same as it had been. In the new Kappa, these places became one stretch of plain, all at the same level. This plain is as glittering, as white, and as beautiful as a plate made of pure silver. There are several lakes that are generally filled with the 5 kinds of lotus, and this makes a very beautiful sight. This place is called the native land of the Naka, and is the dwelling place of the Naka. In this place, there are gem castles and silver and gold castles that are very beautiful, as well as some vacant areas and some areas where nothing lives.
Gold castles? Gem castle? This is very promising.
Could we say very ancient indeed then?
I'm not sure we can definitely know, and also I wonder if the actual age is important. พระคุณเจ้า I have been trying to understand if these older bones are evidence of previous cycles of creation.
It is true that in cycles of creation and destruction, the celestial beings can degenerate into human beings, with each iteration being less perfect, or more perfect is also possible, of course. I think these bones could also be the degeneration of celestial nagas into more earthbound and less perfect creatures of the land.
Due to loss of merit,
Yes, loss of merit, and perhaps these ancient creatures gave into earthly desires, and their physical form changed to reflect that.
What are these bones made of? Are they just bone? Or maybe they are made of gold?
Just made of bone.
Let us turn now to a discussion of what comes next. As you know, we have a long and established field of study of our shared human past through the study of old things, of antiquities and other materials. The royal court at Ayutthaya has a great deal of interest in preserving history. We do this through documenting current events and the events of the past, but also by preserving the physical items of the past, like pottery and even to some extent, ancient buildings. In some cases, this is a religious obligation, of course. But the court wishes to extend this to all of the aspects of human life. It is up to us to decide under whose authority or what type of expertise we need to incorporate these new finds into our great task of documenting the past.
It seems to require a special set of knowledge and skills. Don't you think, Yamali?
Yes, a knowledge of Naka legends, but also of Thai cosmology, as well as perhaps an understanding of the earth and all things, like Moon Vijit mentioned.
Isn't it what you should be doing, Moon?
Yes, this is just part of our work, and it should be.
Oh, I like treasure. So I don't see how the bone will bring in any money. Like in Ban Non Wat, we found the ancient chicken skeleton. Boring. This pottery is probably more useful. It's all the same to me.
I'm not sure. Doesn't it seem very different?
It is very different. The unseen of our world is slowly being revealed to us, and it is up to us to try to understand and make sense of it.
And that is all the time we have today. Join us next week when we are joined by an expert in the study of the history of domesticated chickens.
Keeping it real. In this part of the podcast, we review the segment script and tease out what really happened, what we made up, and what was somewhere in the middle. So I'll tell you what I kept real and what I fudged a bit.
I think we made up quite a bit.
That's true. So let's start with what was true. The court of Ayutthaya in 1717 did have a lot of staff, including court documentarians and court administrators, and many of those roles were performed by women.
Yes, women could perform many roles that they could not in European countries of the same era.
For me, that was incredibly interesting. They also had a rich tradition of antiquarians and documentarians from which we get a lot of information on what life in Ayutthaya was like at that time. In fact, the court of Ayutthaya in general seemed to be very complex, with a high level of bureaucracy. I tried to capture a bit of that.
Okay, how about what was first a bit?
So there were a lot of things that really did happen in Thailand, but not at the time my little play is set.
Let me guess. All the dinosaur stuff.
Well, you would know more than me. But yes, I wanted to actually explore the idea that our ancestors interacted with dinosaur bones in the past and tried to make sense of what they found through the myths they had. So, in Europe, I would speculate that the dragon myths arose out of these kinds of encounters with dinosaur bones. In fact, globally, there are myths about dragons and serpents. So I think this is part of human history in general, to try to understand the world around us, even when we had limited information. So I did take some stories of real discoveries, but transposed them in time.
Reality. The first dinosaur bone was discovered in Thailand in 1970 in a place called Phu Vieng by a geologist for the Department of Mineral Resources. Phu Vieng is near Kolat.
I heard that an abbot from a temple had actually found some bones before that and had preserved them until he decided what to do with them. Is that true?
Yes, because like in the past, people, when we found something, they will give them to the abbot or bring all of the bone to the temple. But at the time, we don't know that is what is the bone. Is we don't believe that we have dinosaur at that time.
Do you think that was the beginning of paleontology in Thailand?
Not quite. The history of paleontology actually goes back to the early of 20th century, when we found the first of the fossils is the fossil of bivalve, and later in about 1950, we found the first petrified woods when we started to have the railway in in Kolat or Nakhon Ratchasima, and later when we expecting to find the uranium in Phu Bien district. And at that time, it's the first time that we found the first dinosaur bone. So we're starting the paleontology in Thailand after that.
So interesting. Thank you so much. I did not know that it was really the railway that or the development of the railway that really exposed all of these
Mhm.
fossils. That's wonderful. Well, I set my little play near Puyang because of the importance of that location for dinosaur excavations in Thailand. But I don't quite understand. Can you tell me a little bit about why there are so many in this area? And what other areas in Thailand are rich in fossils?
Because the richest area of the fossil is in northeastern Thailand. So it's the area of we call now Isan. Because this area was the sedimentary rock that deposited in the time of the dinosaur era, so during the Mesozoic time. So we are very lucky. Or this area, so in every province in northeastern of Thailand, it will be full of the fossil. And because Phu Bien also they have very special uh, geology section because it was the anticline when they lift up the land and eroded. And we are very lucky that the layer of the bone we call the bone bed was just explore and is just on the mountain of Phu Bien. That means that we can walk through the area of Phu Bien and we can find the dinosaur fossil everywhere. That's why we have found many dinosaurs in Isan area.
Yeah, so basically, if I understood correctly, the northeastern area that we call Isan is got a lot of sedimentary rock, and that's what really helps to preserve the fossils. There are three types of rock, right? It's
Yeah,
sedimentary, igneous,
yes,
and what's the
igneous,
third one?
metamorphosis.
Metamorphic.
I'm starting to read it now because it's so interesting. Other people had their dinosaur period when they were young. I'm coming into it at the age of 50. Okay, and sedimentary is the rock that really preserves the dinosaur bones and the fossils. Okay.
Yeah.
And did I understand that the layers of the rock in Puyang are like shallow, so the bones are very close to the. Is that right? Did I understand you correctly?
Actually, it was collecting, and then when the India plate was crashed to the European plate, and then the land was lifted up, and that we are very lucky that you see like all the Phupan range or the mountain in Isan was lifted up, so the bone bed normally it was below, it was like below the land, and then we lift up and that a good layer too because it is lift up too high. So it will be like in northern part of Thailand that we have really high mountain and it will be eroded quickly. But here is at the time we just exactly at the layer of the dinosaur. That's why we found the dinosaur bone everywhere on the mountain in Isan.
Can I say that we have to thank earthquakes for being able to find the dinosaurs? Is that a way of looking at it, right?
Yes,
Okay.
for us to be, yes, but not all people will be. Thanks to that.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
that's great. All right. So at this point, I would normally go just into the closing of the broadcast, but I wanted to know if there's something else you want to say.
Mm, or if to relate to with the myth that also in Thailand, because we have several myths, not only for the dragon, because in this area, I think because dragon is from the northern in China or Eastern Asia, but in this area, like we are close to Khong River, so we have the story about the Naga, and because we have one type of the fossil of this scale, the Pithotest, that they have a large scale in rhomboid shape, and you can see at all the temple of we have the statue of the Naga. They have the same shape of the scale, so that's why people will believe when they find a fossil that it's a Naga scale collecting, and also some of the elephant tooth that is in the shape we thought it is like the head or of the Naga or the horn of the Naga. So like for my father say that when we starting for to find the fossil, first we go to the temple because they will collect all the mysterious thing at the temple, and several times we found dinosaur bone. And
That's so
and
cool.
also
So sorry to interrupt. So basically what you're saying is that um because like the temple is the center of the community, right?
yeah,
And that there people's interaction, or when they discovered these bones, they knew they were important enough to do something with it. And of course they would go to the temple because the abbot or the monks would be like uh the knowledgeable people of what to do. But you're also saying that they knew that they were sacred, right?
yeah,
Or they thought they
yeah.
were sacred. Yes, okay. Okay, please go on. Thank you. This is so interesting. I love seeing how, because I have to say, I think that a lot of people think that the science of dinosaurs is a new thing and it comes with science, right? But I also feel like sometimes we discount that the people before us did have ways of trying to understand the world, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, please go on.
Yeah, we also have another kind of fossil that we give it like amulet. Is I think in European they have a bijou. And for the bijou, actually is the copperite. So it's the duck of the dinosaur. And what is in form that is look like the pupa. So like in Thailand we call it duck bear. So it's like a lock pupa. And so many people just collect it, and I think about 5 years ago, they're very famous and they are in the amulet market, and the price is very high, sometimes to 100,000 baht.
They were
And
selling
just
them
because,
in the market? Yes.
yeah, 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 because there is one village that they have really a lot of copperite deposit in this area. So I think there are 100 people come to digging to find the copperite. A lot of them. Some people said, okay, they can, after that, they can buy a new house, they can have a new car.
I
So
think
when
I'm
we
in the
go
wrong
to this,
business myself. Maybe I should be doing that. Well, Suravech, tell me how you got involved in paleontology. I think you also have a personal story, right?
yeah, sure, yeah, like my family business, because since my father in already is part of the first, one of the first paleontology in Thailand, and he's studying the first dinosaur team. And so I joined the team since I was really young, maybe about 6 or 7 years old. But at that time, I just go and just enjoy, like the children have the summer camp, go for on the tent or walking in the forest, and but like that, okay, I just really used to with the fossils, and so like now I'm still enjoying for the excavation team to explore to find a new dinosaur.
So is that your specialty then, dinosaurs, or do you also have a specialty in certain types of fossils? Like I've been always very interested in the trilobites. Is that how you say it?
Yes, trilobite.
Yeah. So what's your specialty?
My specialty is sauropod dinosaur, a very big dinosaur. The very large herbivorous dinosaur. Because we found them everywhere in Isan. Because by the size and also the one of the dominant dinosaur.
And what's the name of that dinosaur again?
One that we have like Puviengosaurus. Yeah, one of the first sauropod dinosaur that we found at Puvieng.
Ah,
And right now that we are working on is a new sauropod dinosaur. It's also at the Puvieng and close to the first one. But I think this one is will be the new species. And this year we will try to study and should be giving a new name for this animal.
wonderful. Well, I'm going to ask you to share me any articles that are coming out as you guys studied this new dinosaur, because I think I'll definitely want to link to that and follow it. So thank you so much for joining us.
And now I just want to take a moment to talk about the sources I used for this mini play that I wrote. I used 3 main books and a few articles for the sources. Because of the nature of the story, I had to look at sources on the history of Ayutthaya, how the court worked, the history of Buddhism and forest temples in Thailand, the history of Buddhist myths, including the cosmology of the Naga, and finally, books on paleontology in Thailand. The sources are specifically Baker and Pongpai Chit's A History of Ayutthaya, Siam in the Early Modern World, Litai, the King of Sukhothai's 3 Worlds According to King Ruang, a Thai Buddhist cosmology. For the forest temples and monasteries, I recommend exploring the free publications of Forest Dhamma on their website, starting with the biography of Ajahn Mun, the founder of the movement. For books on the Naga, I recommend Ngao Trivatana's The Enduring Sacred Landscape of the Naga, and Barbara Watson Andaya's Rivers, Oceans, and Spirits. There's also an amazing book for paleontology in Thailand from the Department of Mineral Resources, published in 2024, called The Thai National Heritage Fossil. You can find an electronic copy online. There's also a book by Bunchai, Grote, and Jintsakul called The Paleontological Parks and Museums and Prominent Fossil Sites in Thailand. Finally, I do recommend exploring the Journal of Southeast Asian Earth Sciences, where you can find a lot of publications on dinosaurs in Thailand, particularly by the father and son duo Sutitorn. I also want to end today's episode with an acknowledgement of the voice actors. First, Panatat Subsung as the abbot, Kitya Ekpojananan as Yamali, Piang Wanatpomrung as the court administrator, and Chawakoran Chai Chanawarot, also known as Chayo, as the court documentarian.
And that's our wrap.
See you next time on Broadcast from the Past.